Channing Tatum can dance, you guys.
Well, he was a stripper first.
I know. I was reading about that. Yeah, he's got some moves.
Are we going to talk about that now, or are we going to?
No.
Okay.
We're talking about all of it, Sarah. I literally just finished watching the movie, and I feel just like I feel like my eyes have seen so much. I don't know even how to process it. I'm trying to
Was that your first time watching the movie?
No, I've seen it before, but like somehow like watching it again was like just like I don't know. It was a lot for a Sunday, you know? It was a lot for a Sunday.
Yeah, it took me from because I kept having to pause it and like I kept getting interrupted, but I think it took me from like 10 to 2 to like watch the movie. Like it just took so long to get through.
It was like an all-day stripper
It was
fest,
like an all day, yeah.
Like a lot of dancing. It's a lot.
Yeah. I watched it on Monday, so it's not as fresh for me.
Okay. Well, why don't we just get into this? Welcome to the Feminine Mistake Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Nicole.
I'm your other host, Sarah.
And on the show today, I'm super excited. We have actor, director, writer, improviser Frances Chang joining us on the show. Frances, thank you for coming.
Hi.
Thank you for being here, Frances. Frances is
welcome.
One of our good friends who works with us at Critical Crop Top, and we're so glad that she's finally a guest.
I know. We've been waiting for the right film, and apparently with this one.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks for thinking of me.
I don't know why, but so let me just back this up. Here's how it happened. So, those listeners, or if you're watching us on YouTube, we're going to be talking about Magic Mike today. That's this month's film, and so a little backstory. We have another podcast called the Adam and Andy Podcast, where we only watch Andy Samberg and Adam Driver movies, and we watched Logan Lucky a couple of months ago, and Sarah was like, oh, this is my first Channing Tatum movie, and like a moth to a flame, even though this was supposed to be a podcast about Adam Driver, Sarah was like drawn to Channing Tatum, and I was like, well, we've got to watch Magic Mike now, obviously. So we were like, okay, first film on the Feminine Mistake Podcast of 2021 is going to be Magic Mike, and immediately we were like, I don't know why, but we have to have Frances on the show. Like, you were the first person we thought of. We were like, I want to talk to Frances about this movie.
I'm not a dancer, and I've never mentioned Channing Tatum, but okay.
I don't know.
I appreciate it.
I don't
know. Fun lady.
I think that's definitely it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going to be talking about Magic Mike, and but before we get into that, what have you guys been watching? Anything that you've been watching? Movies, TV that we've all had hopefully a little bit of a holiday break. Anyone? Sarah, did you remember what you've been watching?
I remembered. I've been watching a bunch of stuff recently. So the most recent things this week have been The History of Swear Words.
Ooh, is that good?
It's okay. It's hosted by Nicolas Cage.
I mean, I feel like that's a win for me right there.
And it's just kind of like, I mean, I learned some things, but I don't really find swear words to be super interesting. But it was very quick. Like each episode was 20 minutes. They did fuck, shit, damn, dick, pussy, bitch. Yeah, I think that was it.
Okay, well, you have my curiosity.
The one on bitch was good. It was interesting because they really focused on how that is like a derogative term, and not just like this fun like word. Like it's like this is like a problematic
hold people
word.
Down.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, So The History of Swear Words on Netflix. Frances, have you been watching anything that you can recommend or don't want to recommend, or say to recommend that people stay away from, maybe even?
Well, I finished Bridgerton, and so got really into that.
Yeah,
I did. I liked how, even though it was a period piece, they incorporated kind of like modern themes into it, and like the costuming and everything was gorgeous, and the people, of course, gorgeous.
Yeah.
A whole lot of sex, which is fine.
Which I feel like is a good recipe for thirsty quarantine.
Yeah, there's a lot of thirst. I also watched the first 3 episodes of History of Swear Words.
Okay.
I liked it. I thought it was funny. Like Nicolas Cage, I think it's just kind of like an over the top type of thing where they're describing things. But like, yeah, the getting to the root of the words and how it has evolved, and then how taking back the derogatory meanings and then making it your own, especially for some marginalized groups. So that's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
then
you should definitely see it. Like it's good. It's just not like mind blowing, I guess, for me. But
yeah, it's just short snippets.
Yeah.
I think that, people were bored and then just like, this would be fun. Let's throw
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage in here.
it's something
like
they definitely could have done during
that-
quarantine.
Oh, they did during quarantine. Something that
Yeah.
they were like, we were going to do this as a web series, but now that we can only film things with one person at a time, we're going to get Nicolas Cage in here. He's going to be weird, and we're going to
Yeah.
talk about some swear words.
And they got
I don't know.
Yeah.
It sounds like my jam.
Stand up comedians too, like Sarah
Yeah.
Silverman. Who else do they have? Frances.
They're not as known to me, so I can't remember their names because it's a lot of young comedians.
A lot
but
of
yeah,
young comedians.
yeah.
Gosh, you'd know some
But
of
it's
them,
a-
Nicole. I
it's-
forget some more of them.
Yeah, it's an ensemble of people. So it's like Nicolas Cage does the introduction, and then it goes. It's kind of like VH1 style, where they go from like this person talks about this, and then they
I
go
see.
the next comedian and stuff like that.
So it's a bit like it's like Nicolas Cage is the Vincent Price of the
Swear
swear
words.
word show. Got it. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm into that. Okay. So Bridgerton, all things you can watch on Netflix so far.
Yeah.
I've been watching The Stand on CBS, and I promise not to give any spoilers because I know there are some folks who may be wanting to watch it. And so I think we talked about The Stand on the last episode of the Feminine Mistake podcast, right, Sarah? And I had said that the narrative structure was
They fucked it up.
Well, so I'm now 6 episodes deep into a 9-episode series, and so if you didn't listen to the last episode, listeners, I love the book The Stand. I've read it dozens of times, and of course I've seen the 90s miniseries, and I had high hopes for the show. I stand by my opinion that the acting is stellar. It is. The acting's great, mostly. The acting is great. The cinematography is great, obviously. I like some of the moments that they chose that the miniseries didn't use, but I'm at the point now where I have been expecting a little bit more, and I'm not getting it, and I'm feeling a little disappointed. A lot of people on Twitter were dragging the show from the beginning, and I was really like keeping the flame of hope alive, but it's just like I don't understand how you can have a show that has more time to develop the characters than the 90s miniseries does, and yet everyone in the show feels so one-dimensional, except for Harold Lauder, who feels like he's almost become like the main character of the show, which while I love that character, I feel like the characters in the book that really drew me into the story, like Nick Andros, for example, are just like not very well developed at all. Everything feels like it's happening too fast. It's too choppy. It's disappointing. There seems like a lot of stuff there that's really for spectacle, especially in the Vegas scenes. Even like there's things like for a show that is on the internet and can be push the envelope, which they have done a couple of times with the language. There's like it's surprisingly puritanical. There are characters in the book that have on the good team, right? Because there's the good guys and the bad guys, and on the good guys team, there's several like sex encounters that are very important in the character development that they completely ignore in favor of a lot of gratuitous fucking and like intentional like provocative sex in all of the Vegas scenes where they're just kind of in the background, just people like constantly fucking in cages, and it's like salacious and like, oh, look at how bad Vegas is because everyone's having sex, and it's just like I don't like that viewpoint, you know. And so these scenes where you, like, for example, there's these two characters, Franny and Stu. In the book, Franny is traveling with Harold, who is kind of the incel of the story, and Harold Ferry is very possessive of Franny, and then they meet up with Stu, and Stu comes along, and basically Stu takes Harold aside and is like, "Hey, I know you don't trust me. I'm not here to like break up whatever you've got going on with this woman already," which is weird, but like this, it was weird in the book, but it's almost like this thing that now has to occur as people renegotiate society, I guess. And eventually Franny and Stu start up a relationship, and Harold witnesses them having sex, and it's a whole weird thing, and it sets up all this tension that leads to some really big stuff later, and they completely left it out of the story in favor of all this gratuitous fucking in Vegas instead. So it's like things that could have added to the story that they just chose to leave out. And so I'm just confused as to what the decision making was there, when it wasn't like, we can't show sex on TV, because they sure did it in the 90s miniseries when it was on like ABC or whatever prime time. They found a way to tell that story and make it part of it. I don't know. I'm very disappointed at this point with The Stand. I had high hopes. So
that's a bummer. Sorry.
And I'm not saying people shouldn't watch it, because I think that you can take, if I were to take the actors and the cinematography from this show and put it in the 90s miniseries, then I feel like I'd have the perfect mix. But it's like the writing and the structure of it is just not, they've really not done a good job with it, I feel like. Also, Trash Can Man, who's played by Ezra Miller, I could go on all day about how bad his performance is, and I don't know if it's his fault or the director. Like, I don't know whose idea this was, but he's almost like playing him like Animal from the Muppets. And I don't understand why. And it's offensive on multiple levels and not true to the character at all. And I just was hoping for more. So I'm going to keep watching, but I don't see it getting better at this point. I'm going to be shocked if I change my feelings about it after this deep into the show. So that's what I've been watching. Sarah, you've never read The Stand. Frances, have you ever read The Stand? No? Okay.
I don't do scary movies or books if I can help it.
Well, this one would be a tough slog at this point, because the first like third of the book is all about how the super virus kills most of the world's population. So yeah, it's kind of a touchy subject right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, shall we get into this movie, you guys?
Sure.
All right. So, Magic Mike. Before we get into it, we always do a little bit here where we talk about what our experience was with the film prior to the show. So, so let's start with Frances. Had you seen this movie before? Is this your first time watching it? Any preconceived notions about Magic Mike?
So I have seen it before. I remember when this came out, and it was such a big deal because thirsty ladies everywhere were wanting to see this movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it took 2 attempts to see it when it like originally came out in theaters. I remember because I was coming off of a leg injury, and I went with a friend, and we were at Atlantic Station, and there was a line to get into the movie theater, but the line was backed up on the escalator. And so I am with only one working leg, trying to like stay in sync with the escalator. So, and I'm like, we're going to have to move this line because I can't walk. And then the movie was sold out. So we wound up watching Brave, the Disney movie Brave.
Which I love.
Which was really good.
Same thing.
It's not the same thing. But woo, lady empowerment. And then we eventually did get to see it, but I don't remember the circumstances or like who I was with or what theater that was, but I do remember seeing it. And then this was my second time watching it.
So it was jam-packed, basically. Like you couldn't.
Yeah, it was all cougars.
Cougars out the door. Cougars down the
literally
block.
The line was down the escalator, and I'm like, we're going to have to move, you bitches.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't like
Sarah.
men that are younger than like 2 years from me, so I don't understand the whole cougar thing, I guess.
It is. It's weird. Yeah.
Sarah's like, I've got a sharp cutoff.
Sharp. I mean, it might change when I get older, but I already found my person, so that's fine.
I expect that when Sarah gets into her 50s, she's going to be like, just cougar town.
She'll
She's
be like, I just will eat my words. I'll be like, I was wrong, guys. Like
19 years old. That's it. That's all I'm going to go.
Even now, 19 just sounds like babies. So
they are.
Yeah. So I had heard about this movie when it came out. It came out in 2012. And I remember there being a big like Magic Mike, like this big thing. And I was like, I'm not really into it. Like it wasn't something, I thought it was going to be bad. Like I just didn't think it was going to be like a quality film. So I was like, it's like an American Pie type thing. Like I thought it was just going to be this dumb thing. So I didn't see it. So this was the first time today that I saw it.
So we made you watch it.
You are a Magic Mike virgin.
Yes.
So I have seen this movie before. I also, when it came out, expected that it was stupid. I didn't think too hard about it. I was just like, oh, it's just a meat movie, which is fine. But I can rent a meat movie. I don't need to go to the theater to see it. And of course, in 2012, I would have had 2 kids at that point. So I'm not going to the theater unless it's something
big,
like Star Wars. Yeah.
But I did eventually rent it because I was like, oh, this is a Steven Soderbergh movie. And also I had heard it was good. And I actually remember my recollection of watching it in the past before this was I didn't honestly remember a lot of it at all. So it was kind of like watching it for the first time. I remember feeling like I needed a shower. Like I felt a little icky, like a little sticky and a little icky after watching it. But I remember thinking like that was actually surprisingly good. When I saw it last time, I was like, oh, that was a better film than I expected. I think
I came out of it thinking it was kind of like Boogie Nights Light, kind of like a more fun, a funner version of Boogie Nights.
Yeah,
which I also haven't seen.
Oh, Sarah, I'm going to add that to the list of things that we should probably do on the show because Boogie Nights is definitely one to talk about. Okay, well, that's our experience with the film prior to the podcast. So let's get into talking about this movie.
The house is a mess, Jack. The kids are a mess, Jack. You're a mess, Jack.
You have been a total bitch ever since you came to New York.
You seem sort of distant.
Let's just do it, huh?
You look stupid and rich. Stupid and rich.
Fascist.
All right, let's get into it.
Magic Mike, 2012, director Steven Soderbergh and writer Reed. Oh, I fucking didn't write this down right. Reed Carolyn. I don't know. He wrote it. Wrote a lot of other stuff that Channing Tatum is in. I have a feeling there's some kind of producing team, I'm gonna guess.
Yeah, and Channing Tatum was actually one of the executive producers I saw.
Right, and as Frances mentioned earlier in this recording, this was based on his experiences, loosely based on his experiences as a male dancer.
Oh, so it was based on his experiences. Like I knew he was a stripper, but I didn't know this was based on like stuff that he had gone through.
I don't know how much of it is from his life, but I'm, I definitely felt in watching it like this was not written by somebody's outside view. Like this definitely felt like an inside job, if you know what I'm saying. It's felt like it had a lot of details. It felt very real. I mean, even the way it was shot, the way they made you, it was like you're in there, you're backstage, you're in it. It was felt very anyway. Gosh, I don't even know where to begin. Sarah, let's start with something off of your list. Where would you like to start?
That was actually one of the things that I wanted to talk about is how it was shot and how it was edited as well. Like it was very striking in the first few scenes how I kind of stopped paying attention to it after this, but it seemed to be edited in a kind of unique way where it held on character. Sorry.
His hands
It held on characters before they talked, while they were talking, after they talked, and then sometimes like
very loose editing.
Well, so sometimes it was just like when someone else was talking, you just saw the person's reaction. I thought that was very interesting. Like it was different. It was definitely different, but it was very interesting.
Yeah, I feel like it is in keeping with some of other Soderbergh's other films. Certainly not Ocean's 11, which is more your like peppy, feisty, mainstream kind of movie. It had an independent film feel where it was very slice of life. It was not, while there was a lot of spectacle in it, it was, I think, more about the intimate moments between the people and what was going on with them internally. And I think that the shooting reflected that. There was a lot of scenes where you were like, you wouldn't expect that to be included in the movie. Like just a couple of guys on a rooftop. They'd spent plenty of time with them putting that tile down. Whereas like, a lot of quiet moments that it was surprising that we spent time in that quiet, given that this movie is about this crazy lifestyle.
There were lots of things that were like, there was like a scene that seemed to be, should have been an intimate scene between Joanna and Mike on the beach, but it was like in super wide the entire time, just this one big wide shot. And I was like, that was an interesting choice.
Well, I think that I remember that because I literally just watched this movie. I feel like the reason for that was because the intimacy between and we can talk about this, of course, the intimacy between Joanna and Mike is not real.
Yeah.
Very surface.
Yeah.
And it gives us a chance to see Brooke kind of walk away from the conversation and go off by herself into the ocean, which I think is more important than what these two are saying to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my first thing.
Yeah, I definitely made note of that. Frances,
Plus, in real life, it was a really small island and they had a limited amount of crew they could put in there.
Oh, okay. I see. Interesting. Yeah, that the big beach party.
Yeah.
Gosh. Okay, let's see. Gosh, where do I want to go next? There's just so much here.
So much.
I guess I'm just gonna come out and say it. This movie is like a throbbing dick. That's what I kept thinking to myself this whole time. It was just like it was just so sweaty, and the masculinity, the performance of masculinity. I guess I'd like to start there because I feel like one of my big questions, like obviously this movie is very hyper masculine. It's not really a story about women, although there are women in the movie. I feel like it's more a story about men and their relationships and how they structure those relationships and navigate them amongst each other. And it's this very like hyper performative masculinity that's going on. And so I guess my question is for you guys is, do you think that this hyper masculinity of like, pushing guys to their limit of like being a man and acting like a man and like the way they move their body when they're not even on stage, is that something that these guys are just naturally like this, or is this something they've developed because they're like basically man meat like 3 nights a week?
See, I guess I think I have a different take on it because I felt that even though it's a hyper masculine type of movie because of the way their muscle tone and the way their bodies are built, but also like how often do you have men just hanging out naked or half naked and backstage, hugging each other, high fiving? Yeah. And then like, when Matthew McConaughey, Dallas is teaching
Adam,
the kid, how to dance. He's right on him, and they're not embarrassed about it. It's just a thing. He's wearing his short shorts. For this movie, they're all straight. And
there's no discussion of like, I'm not gay. Like there's no discussion of gay or
like
straight or anything.
Joe Manganiello's pumping his penis in front of everybody.
I know,
so it's just
crazy. I do think Dallas did say something about how like this isn't about being like when he was on him and like sort of moving his hips around, he did say something about like this isn't about like being gay, like I'm just showing you how to move, like Adam was uncomfortable with it,
Okay.
but
I
Dallas
missed that.
wasn't.
Yeah.
It was like really it was just something he kind of said while he was in the middle of showing him how to move his hips.
Yeah.
But overall, I agree with you. But you know what? There was other stuff like when Tarzan, played by Kevin Nash, wrestler Kevin Nash.
Watching him was hilarious because I could do that the second time around, and it was just like he doesn't move.
No, he was like, I'm gonna put Tarzan, which is his stage name, in the category of like that male stripper at the club where you're like, ooh, what's he doing here? Like you're like, ugh. Like maybe he got in on a seniority. I don't know. But oh gosh, I got distracted.
He was buff. What do you mean?
I didn't look. I didn't. His body's not bad. I'm just saying, like he's not.
He's got a butterface.
He's got a butterface.
Guys, don't do that. Like that's we hate when guys do that to us.
You're right. He's not. I don't find him attractive.
Yes.
But also he was weird and kind of creepy. So it's not just his face. It's like he's weird and creepy, and like he just stuck out to me as like not fitting in with the rest
he
of
wasn't
the
in the routines, I don't think, where they all
He
danced.
He was in the back. He's in the back and he doesn't move.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Sometimes he gets too wasted and has to like not be in the show that night. So
yeah, like they didn't really address that. Like he's knocked out at the beginning, which is why they had to throw Adam in, and then that began his journey.
Yeah, I'm curious, like how they auditioned for this film. Like, not how did they audition to get into the strip club, but like how did these actors audition to get into this film?
Oh, what I wanted to circle back to though was Tarzan. The first night that Adam is there, makes him spray his legs down.
Yeah.
And then tells him to rub it in. And it's like a whole thing where they're kind of alpha dogging him to touch his leg. And then they kind of laugh at him a little bit. So I do think there is like, I guess I should say that the movie is hyper masculine, but does seem to most of the time avoid the typical toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Like they aren't nobody's fighting over any girls in this movie. There is very little of performative heterosexuality in this movie. There's a lot of scenes where the men seem okay with like sharing whatever woman they're with. So it is like, I would say that it's different in that way. I guess what I mean by hyper masculine is, like you said, Frances, their body shapes are like, they're very muscular and they have that very angular, like broad shoulders. There's a lot of humping. There's a lot of
humping, a lot of
so
them taking off in their thongs, humping people's faces.
Action.
Their faces.
A lot of
that's what happens in strip clubs.
I've never been to a male strip club. I don't know.
Sarah. Well, I can't say that surprises me. It doesn't seem like a place that you would enjoy.
I had no idea that like men like hump people's face. I know they don't like touch them, but like still I had no idea they like picked them up.
Oh,
and, like,
I've been to a male strip club and I have definitely had a thonged dick slap me in the face. It definitely happens.
Oh my gosh.
But like even when they are completely naked, they'll stick it in your face.
Woo! Yikes.
Yeah. It's not like a female. Like at a female strip club, you really can't touch the ladies. And you can't touch them at the male strip club either, but they sure can touch you. Yeah. It's.
Can you say no? Because I noticed in this film that they went up to these women and just like kind of the women were like,
yeah.
But they pick and choose. They can see who would be into it.
Right.
You're not gonna drag somebody from the back with the sour face unless it's part of the movie or whatever. But they're gonna grab the one that is going to tip them.
Exactly. And I think if that woman seemed like she was about to have a panic attack, they'd probably just put her back down and move on.
Yeah.
I feel like.
I didn't like the one where the woman was plus size and he like picked her up and like threw out his back. Like
I didn't like that
I loved that I was like, ooh, plus size, he's gonna lift her, like it's gonna be great. And then they did the joke where like he threw out his back and I was like, why?
I didn't like that either. Yeah. Well, so I've been trying to figure it out whether they're just like I guess if we look at Adam's journey and how he kind of starts out of this as this surly directionless young man, I feel like when he gets into the game of male dancing and is in this environment that's very like parties and women and drugs and sex, it seems to amplify his more like his more I don't want to say animalistic impulses, but like the id, if you will.
The id.
Like, yeah, it seems to amplify that. So I feel like, but I also feel like the fantasy that they're selling is a very binary version of masculinity. You know what I mean? Like it's like firemen and soldiers, and it's a very I should say traditional version of masculinity. Firemen and soldiers, and Tarzan, and all this like like it's very like a man's man, like a man who drives a truck, and I don't know.
I didn't like how they started his arc and then didn't finish
They
it.
didn't finish it. Yes, I was thinking that. Yeah.
Great question. Yeah,
Because he starts off and he turns down the joint, so he's not into that lifestyle, and then he gets seduced by it, which that's what the story is about. Goes to parties, starts doing drugs, starts selling drugs, and then Mike's character decides he wants out, and then but Adams feels bad for what happened. But
does
what happened with
not that
Yeah.
bad.
well, it's delivered by his sister. So that's the thing. He feels bad, delivered by his sister. They never interact again. And then, Dallas is going to open up his new thing and Adam's going to be a part of it. And that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So they don't finish. There's no closure with that.
Well, I think the closure with Adam is more like he's an asshole. Like he just like started out as the sweet kid and then he just ended up being like this asshole who's like taking Mike's place and
he was
just
never
like
a sweet kid. He was.
No?
I mean, do you remember him at the restaurant with his fucking hoodie over his head, like just like I don't want to be a part of society?
Okay, you're right. You're right.
He dropped out. He got kicked out of college because he punched the football coach and he had a scholarship.
True. Yeah. So he wasn't some innocent kid. He just had less
he had impulse control.
Like lower
he's a dumb 19-year-old kid.
Yeah.
In fact, I think what I want to talk about next is I think where the movie tries to give us closure is that in this movie there are a series of men like looking for some kind of father figure or like guidance or like mentor. I feel like that is the relationship between Mike and Dallas. And Mike is trying to elevate that into a relationship where they're more equals, and Dallas doesn't want anything to do with that. I think Dallas sees himself as like the papa hen of all these like little naked chicks that are like in his flock, and he's in charge, and he doesn't want Mike to elevate up to the point where he is an equal in the house. He doesn't want that. And I think that Mike, for Alex, becomes some kind of father, big brother kind of protector figure.
Adam.
Yeah, Adam. Sorry, I keep calling him Alex. That's the actor's name.
Alex and Adam. Where do you know?
Alex is the name of the actor. Sorry, I kept getting them mixed up.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that what we see happen is, I at the end, I actually had to ask myself, is Adam like the antagonist of this movie? Like, who is the antagonist of this movie? It's like he's the one who causes a bunch of bad things to happen to Mike, who seems to be the protagonist. At first it seems like it's Alex, but it's not. And if
I think it's the lifestyle.
You think
the
so?
lifestyle is the antagonist? Yeah. Because Mike is trying to become like a legit businessman. And this is a means to an end, and he can't accomplish his means because I don't know why he doesn't put his singles into a bank like as a businessman and then accumulate credit that way, whatever. Because there's nothing wrong with like, putting yourself through school, getting money, how you through stripping or whatever, sex work, if you're trying to accomplish an end goal. Yeah. So that whole scene in the bank where like he's got his down payment or because collateral, and he's getting turned away because of his credit. And I was like, you've got all this money, put it in a bank and build your credit.
For sure. I think the problem is that he doesn't have anybody to give him the advice like that. Like he doesn't have somebody in his life to tell him to put it in the bank.
Yeah, like we don't know who his mom or dad is.
Who's got Dallas who says he's going to put his fake kids that he doesn't have in front of a TV and make them watch Money Market or whatever on the 24-hour news channel and tell them not even to go to high school. Like he doesn't have anyone apparently, not that we can see, in his life to help him make better decisions. There's no one in his life to help him with that. He's just kind of he
does the books,
right?
So it's like it's a circle that just can't close.
Absolutely. I think he wants to be a legitimate businessman and he has dreams, but he doesn't know what the path is, but he does know how to put on the fantasy. So he puts on the suit, he puts on the business guy glasses, and he goes in and he tries to charm the woman behind the counter, and it doesn't work in that environment.
Mm-hmm.
And she is trying in a way that makes him feel emasculated, because again, I think this movie is very like, I'm a man and I don't need this woman to tell me what to do. I think that it was a moment where he was feeling that, where she's like, hey, we have programs where we can, help you up your credit score. And he's basically like, I'm not in distress. I have this whole stack of cash here. Obviously, I don't need your help,
I feel like that part was a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Because the programs that she was offering was not what he needed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I don't think it was about her being a woman. It was about him perceiving that she was talking down to him as a poor person, or as someone who couldn't take care of himself or didn't know things. Or
He did call her sweetheart, though, which I don't think he would have done if it was a man on the other side of that counter.
Yeah.
So yes, it was about him, and I do think there's a message in this movie here about like people trying to come up and working hard to come up and being knocked down and knocked down and knocked down. And I think that's part of that, what that scene was about. But I also think that he went in there and saw a woman behind the counter and was like, ooh, I can compliment her on her necklace and I can charm her. And then when it didn't go his way and he started to feel a little insecure about it, then he starts calling her sweetheart. And like, I mean, to me, I think that was pretty obviously another layer of that interaction.
I can see that. Yeah.
Gosh, there's just like so much to talk about, you guys, in this movie. We haven't even gotten to all of the, I feel like we need to at least talk a little bit about each of these guys. Do you think we talked enough? Like, did we go through each one of them? We didn't talk too much about Dallas. God, I could talk about him forever. He's got so
There's
much.
Dallas and Ken and Tito and Big Dick Richie.
I love, God, I'm going to butcher his name because I do every time. Joe
Manganiello.
Joe Manganiello. Oh my God. I wanted all of his scenes cut together and I just wanted to watch him. Like every time he was on, I was just like,
there's more of him in the second movie.
Oh, really? Oh, well, I'm going to have to.
There's a second movie?
I forgot there was until somebody mentioned it to me today. And I was like, it's Triple Mike X.
Is it on HBO Max?
Oh, I don't know what it's on, but I know there's a second one, and I feel like he's sillier in it because there's a challenge when they're all doing a road trip somewhere, and they stop off at a convenience store, and there's a lone like teenage girl at the cashier, and I don't know if the guys challenge him or if he takes it upon himself, but he is trying to make her smile or whatever. So he does this whole dance routine in the convenience store, and she's just staring at him.
I feel
deadpan. Yeah.
I feel like he was a bit of so that's Big Dick Richie, right? That's his name. Yeah, I feel like he was a bit of the comedic relief already because we see him pumping the penis early on.
I didn't even know what that was until like the last second of that shot.
Inflating his dick right now. But also they had him like painted like a statue. I feel like there were a lot of moments where he was kind of like, the joke was like, he's this beautiful example of masculinity, and we're going to have his routines are going to be just like there's something a little absurd about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ken was Matt Boner. Is it Boner?
Bomber.
Bomer.
Bomber.
I said Boner.
Bomber.
I'm sorry,
Boner.
I've got boners
No.
on the mind, you guys.
Bomer, Nicole.
Matt Boner? Was it Boner?
Bomer.
Bomber.
With an M.
Boner. Okay. So, he was, I guess he's like the conventionally pretty stripper guy.
Matt Bomer always reminds me of Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was Henry Cavill at first. And then I was like, wait, no, it's Matt Bomer. They look so alike.
Yeah, but Matt Bomer has like emotional levels, which I think makes a little bit better.
Yeah.
Henry Cavill's a little bit of a beautiful piece of rock, but kind of a piece of rock when he acts.
But Matt Bomer's a little bit leaner, so he's a little more attainable in my eyes. So yeah, that's my guy.
He looks a bit like a corporate pretty boy. Maybe I'm just thinking of him.
That's why he's Ken.
The Ken doll. Yeah.
Ken. Yes, I loved the Ken doll. Oh, that was so fun.
He was also a good dancer. I was like, oh, he can. I forgot he was in this movie.
I did notice there was one time when they all were supposed to like shake their butts. Like, it wasn't twerking, but it was like you stand still and your butt's supposed to shake. And none of them could do it. Like, they all were like, I was like, these are actors. These aren't dancers.
Channing Tatum, I felt like, had a healthy control of his gluteal muscles.
He is a really good dancer. Like, I think he's like dancer first, actor second. I mean, he's a good actor too, but like, he can dance.
And then, we talked about Tarzan. Gosh, Dallas is icky for me.
Matthew
like,
McConaughey,
very icky. But Matthew McConaughey, I feel like
he looks like he always smells bad.
Yeah,
like he smells a bit. Well, he looks a bit like he smells very musky. I would say musky.
Yeah, his hair looks like it smells bad.
It's always a little wet.
Greasy.
But I will say that I felt like his performance for me was the standout performance in this movie. Like, he seemed really at home in this character personally. To me,
he always seems at home in his characters. Like, he's always good. He plays this character a lot, though. I feel like in a lot of the roles I've seen him in, he's like this, like
it's like
overconfident stud guy.
It's like his character from Dazed and Confused. Like, this is what he did after he stopped hanging out with all the high school girls. Like,
it's a continuation.
It's like those characters live in the same universe. But no, I actually thought he brought a lot of levels to this, because he's the showman, but also like he's assessing all of these men that are in this club that are kind of under his care. I'm not really sure how to describe it.
Scrotum.
Under his scrotum. He's assessing each one of them and what they can bring to him. Like, what resources are they going to bring into his business, right? He's always on the sidelines kind of assessing where to put these guys to make him the most money, right?
Well, isn't that what a business person does?
Sure, but there's something very cutthroat about that. Like,
yeah, that I had an issue with how his relationship with Mike dissolved.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they had a working relationship all these years. He depended on Mike, and then Mike has one night where he's like, I'm out. I don't feel this anymore, and he doesn't pursue it. He's just like, all right, you're out.
Yeah,
cut off.
So here's my question, though. Do you think that he was ever going to let Mike be a partner in this business, anything more than just a dancer and like the guy that does the books?
No.
Well, he had discussed equity. I think he discussed equity with all of the dancers, because Adam was saying that he got some, and then that's what set Mike off, was like, that. How are we equals? I've been, helping you and bringing in people and grooming people for all of these years. I want 10%. And then Dallas wasn't budging, and then that's when
I feel like
they separated.
The equity is a carrot. I feel like it's a carrot he dangled in front of Mike, and it's a carrot he's dangling in front of all these other guys to get them to move. He's giving them as much as he can spare without impacting himself, his business, or his control over the business that he has. And that's not necessarily a terrible decision. Like, most of these guys are not very reliable, you know? And I think Dallas thinks Dallas has made this business, like, that's his choice, that this is his commodity, and he has learned everything that he needs to know about it. He has a very strong opinions about what those women want, and he's obviously delivering it in such a way that he's got a profitable business, and he can buy us. Miami is not cheap. Like, buying real estate in Miami is not cheap. So he's obviously doing well.
Hey, I just thought of something. The crowd is full of women.
Mhm.
What about men who are attracted to men? Like, are there gay male strip clubs that are?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
Swinging
so-
Richards is totally gay.
Yeah.
So this is like a straight male strip club.
It just depends on who shows up.
Okay.
I mean, like, you can't. I mean, there's something to say about marketing, but it's it's whoever shows up.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting to bring that up because they chose in this movie to not have any men in that crowd, not even one.
Mm-mm.
So that's a choice that was made by
Yeah.
the filmmaker to say this is a club that only women are here.
Yeah.
So I do think it's important to
I
bring
don't
that
know
up.
what that means. I don't know why that was the choice, or
But in reality, it would probably mostly be gay men and then some women.
Well, the club that I went to had mostly women, but there were some men there. It wasn't only women. Like, there were definitely men at the club. So
Mhm.
I don't know. So I'm not sure why. I mean, I do know why. To me it seems like they're afraid to bring that into the story because there would be men
Yeah.
there.
Or it's just lazy storytelling. I mean, or
Yeah.
because
Well, they might
the
have to
relationships that
address it. Sorry, go.
I'm sorry, please continue, Frances. You were saying.
I was just saying because they were talking about their personal relationships, which were heterosexual,
Mhm.
and then so they just probably didn't think outside enough to just pack the club with anything else besides women, because that's who they're going to go flirt with, that's who they're going to pick up, that's who they're going to kiss, even though they're not supposed to kiss anybody. So I mean, that I'm surely in reality wise, yeah, they should have included gay men or any other type of people, but I mean, because like they were mostly all white,
Yeah,
women.
that too.
The entire
There was
feels like
one person of color as a stripper.
And I
Yeah.
can promise you, in Tampa, it's not just white ladies going to that strip club.
So
But there
it's
were
just,
also there were no black men in the group of dancers either.
it was just Tito. He
It
was
was
the only
just
person
Tito.
of
Yeah.
color.
And all of his dances, we didn't even get to this, but almost all of his dances were based on his ethnicity. It seemed like, right? Unless he was in a group dance, all of his shtick was based on.
What were his?
They're in Florida.
Well, didn't he ask Tito to get out there and do something like I don't remember exactly what he said, but like everybody, like they were putting each of these guys in a box, and his box was him being, a Latino man. That was the box they were putting him in. So I think that, I mean, Steven Soderbergh is not he didn't forget to include these groups of people. He didn't forget to include African American women or men. They just made a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not the way I think it would be in reality.
Mm-mm.
And in fact, not like I'm a frequent flyer at these clubs, but certainly in my 20s when I had, friends that were getting married or, girls going out at, for a crazy night. I've been to a couple of these type of clubs, and it's definitely not all white, and it's definitely not all straight. And I don't think it would be like that in a big city like Tampa.
Yeah.
Not that Tampa's as big as Miami.
Yeah, I do remember thinking it seemed very white, very straight, very
There was a particular group of people that they were trying to tell a story about, and it didn't include those other groups.
Yeah. pretty much.
Yeah.
All right, what else you got on your list, Sarah?
So this happened earlier on. These couple of lines really struck me. When Adam and Mike are in the club trying to recruit girls to come to their
I wonder
to
if we wrote
Mike's.
the same. I wonder if we wrote the same line down, Sarah.
Yeah. She looks like she doesn't want to be bothered, and then Mike says, "Look at what she's wearing. She came here to be bothered."
I wrote that down too. I think let's talk about the way the women are portrayed in this movie. So they don't have the only person who gets Joanna gets a little bit of depth and Brooke gets a little bit of depth, but overall, like, the women are like, gosh, they're lures, they're
Plot devices.
they're plot devices, but to the men, they're just a thing to use either for money or for sex.
For their conscience.
Hmm?
Joanne was supposed to be Adam's conscience, and then a little bit of Mike's.
Oh, you mean Brooke, the sister.
Brooke.
Joanna
Brooke.
is the grad
It's a
student.
psychologist.
Yeah. I think that I'm trying to think. I'm thinking of the women in the club, like they're like hooting and hollering and having a good time, and I think these guys generally aren't looking for any kind of intimate connection with these women. All the a emotional connection, except for Mike, who seems to be trying to even force like an intimate connection with Joanna where there isn't one.
Yeah. I think that something that struck me about this film is that if this were a film about female strippers, we would have the same problem where the female strippers are not real human beings and the male characters are the real human beings.
You think so?
I think so. Like, I think that, I mean, maybe not today, but maybe when this was made or before, like, I think that we've seen it so many times. A movie that's supposed to be about women ends up being about the men. And I think that,
even though I don't like the movie Hustlers, that's not true.
Yeah, I was going to say we should.
Yeah.
That's, I think, definitely something we should look at some point as Hustlers. I'm trying to think of a movie we did watch for the show. For this
Striptease.
Striptease.
I didn't see Striptease. I wanted to ask you about that. So
I've never seen it.
So that movie, Demi Moore is the main character, but she doesn't, like, her relationships with women in that movie are very flimsy, like, in terms of, like, they're there and they have discussions and they have but it's not like the women's relationships together are not a driving force in the narrative.
Yeah.
Her relationship with other people in the movie that are male characters is stronger and has more depth than her relationship with the female characters in the movie Striptease.
Yeah, and that was in the 80s. Like, I'm just saying that not now and not when Hustlers came out, but like maybe like before, like in the early 2000s and then the 90s and 80s and stuff, that it would just be kind of, we'd still see the issues with the female characters, even if they were the main characters.
I think what you're responding to is I think maybe what you're getting at here is that strip clubs are used frequently in movies, but they're often used as a backdrop, or a set piece. And the women are often used as more like eye candy, and like, not that there's not eye candy in this movie. I do think this movie is like titillating in a way that's
eye candy. Yeah,
it's meant to be titillating. I feel like let me put a pin in that and circle back to it, because I want to ask, like, who's the audience for this movie. But let's circle back to that. But this movie has eye candy in it, but it's also like about these people and their relationships, whereas most of the time when we see strip clubs with women in it, it's not like, they're just kind of like they're like house plants.
Yes.
In the
Yes,
background.
I am responding to that, but I'm also just saying that we've seen movies in the past where the female main characters are not as developed as the male side characters. That's just what
for sure.
I'm just
for sure.
butthurt, basically.
You know what? I think that's a reasonable complaint, and certainly something we've seen in a lot of movies.
And I will say that I think that even though there's appears to be a lot of objectification in this, all of the routines seem to be more about look at their skill
and their control.
Their skill and control. Whereas I feel like when women are shot doing these things, it's more about look at their bodies, look at their, or maybe that's just what's going on in my head. I don't know.
Bodies are on display, but I also feel like the lengths that they have to go to like to perform in this venue is like feats of incredible strength, which I think and Frances, correct me if I'm wrong here, I feel like that's pretty true to going to a male strip club. It's not enough for them to just dance and jiggle their balls around. Like they have to lift things. They lift people, they lift things. It's like there are feats of strength in addition to just like shaking their, shaking their buns or whatever,
I've been to Swinging Richards and the Coronet Club.
Coronet Club's the one I've been to.
Coronet Club had like the men and the women. I don't know. I feel like women's strip clubs, there's more developed routines. Like each stripper will come out and have a routine and do their thing. Whereas, well, at least in Swinging Richards, everybody's just out like a buffet, just swinging their meat.
Oh.
So there's not a lot for them. There wasn't a lot of like lifting, because it's mostly gay people. Mm-hmm. So they're just going up to trying to get their tips and then trying to sell a private dance. Mm-hmm. And then I can't remember much from the Coronet Club because I was in college.
My experience with the Coronet Club was more like this, where it's one guy comes up and he does some kind of themed dance and he's picking up a woman in a chair. Like it was very similar to this. Obviously, this movie was much more elaborate. Like the fucking choreography was not anything of this level at the Coronet Club, But it was more like that one person at a time coming out, or maybe two guys doing a thing together. But that was my experience.
Yeah, it is my goal to one day when Vegas is back open to go to see Thunder Down Under, and then maybe I'll get more of an understanding.
So we'll have you back on the show.
Yeah,
you can give us an update. I do feel like at a high, I guess. I mean, is this place a fancy joint, or it seems like a
so. I think it's just a hole in the wall.
Yeah, it seems like a strip mall strip club to me.
Yeah.
Welcome to Plug It Up. This is the part of the show where we talk about some things that we're doing that we want you to watch or listen to. Let's start with our guest Frances, who I think also has some trivia, some interesting trivia bits about the movie that she wanted to pass along to us.
Yeah, so Gabriel Iglesias, who played the DJ, I don't know if it was in his stand-up or if it was an interview, but he talked about how they had like the sex toy master bringing in all of these prosthetics because it's a movie about strippers. And so there was a table full of dicks. And of course, a bunch of guys, they come in and they see a table full of dicks. They grab them and start lightsaber fighting with them. And they're making like the little pew pew noises. Nice. So that just having that image was kind of funny. And of course, the way Fluffy describes it is a lot funnier than the way I just did.
Nice. I like that a lot. Funny. I like that image of them all smacking each other with dicks. I like it.
Yep.
I'd like to come to work today and there'd just be a table full of dicks there. Why can't I come into work and there's just a table full of dicks?
Maybe you should start putting that in your rider.
From now on at Craft Services, there will be a table full
of dicks.
Thank you, Frances. That was a nice little trivia tidbit that gave me a
Sure, you're welcome. Just play that GIF in your head over and over again.
I would like to. Do you have anything that you'd like us to any projects you're excited about or things you'd like us to check out?
Well, a short that I shot 2 years ago or less than 2 years ago. Baggage Check just recently got an award at the Cobb International Film Festival for
Congratulations.
best local film, which was a surprise to me because it was like less than 2 minutes, this whole short.
Well,
So
it's a great film.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you for helping with the sound on that.
I enjoy
Nicole.
very much being on set. I'd be happy to do it anytime.
Yeah. So that was fun. And once things clear up, I am really looking forward to doing film again. So Ava Davis, Melissa Knapp, and I have a short horror, experimental horror that we're working on. So we're looking to shoot. I also have another horror short that I was going to shoot, but I decided might be better as an animation. So I'm working with an animator on that. So hopefully those will come out this year.
Excellent. That sounds amazing. Is there any social media or anything that people can follow you on if they want to keep up to date with what's going on with your work?
So my social handles is my wrestling gimmick, Dr.
Nice.
Melee, and mostly
Which I can't
just
believe we didn't talk about, given that there's a wrestler in this movie, but somehow we just breezed right past that.
I was like, oh, that's why they asked me. No. But mostly Twitter, I just complain about things or post funny jokes, and then my Instagram is hiking fit photos. So I'm not really that interesting in person.
Well, I
Just on
disagree
paper.
about that, but we're happy to have you on the show, and we'll be sure to. So, if Baggage Check or any of these other films become available, we'll pass along that info so people can see it.
Yeah, my YouTube channel is Media Tiger. Tiger spelled Tigre because I'm
Nice.
fancy.
Excellent.
And that's where all of my other shorts are as well.
Okay, we'll go and Frances has
Fun
a prolific filmmaker. Lots of shorts up there, so go check those out. Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, I would like to plug the Critical Crop Top Sketch Comedy Web Show, which episodes now being released. Frances also worked on that with us, did a couple of roles in Bellycraft, and was one of the judges in the Great Prison Bake Off, and also did some narration for us. We shot 10 sketches, all virtual. It was super fun, and we're releasing them twice a month. So there's by the time this comes out, there'll be 2 up because Group Therapy is coming out tomorrow. So very excited about that. So go check out Critical Crop Top. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Critical Crop Top. And you can go to the Critical Crop Top YouTube channel, and all the sketches will be uploaded there, as well as sketches from our live shows. And you can also watch the vidcast of this podcast over there as well. So Critical Crop Top. All right. Well, it's been super fun having you on the show. I hope that everyone comes back next week when we'll be talking, 2 weeks from now when we'll be, we of course, we're splitting this conversation in 2 parts. So come back next week, and we'll be talking more about Magic Mike with Frances. Please tweet at us and tell us what you thought of Magic Mike. You can find us on Twitter at FemMistakePod. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Feminine Mistake Pod. All right.
Are you the one this film was for? Let us know.
Were you the person? Were you the person that this movie was for? Are you nipple blind but pelvis aware?
Yes. Pelvis aware.